Okay, good morning. This is the beginning of architectural research. Formally, this would constitute the different types of methodologies available in the field of architecture. And I need you to clarify. I need this lecture for you to be clarified on what are their uses as well as their respective practicalities in architectural research. Um, Actually, it may constitute your theoretical framework. Uh, Now, there is no fixed method or architectural research strategy as well as tactic that is tailor fitted or one size fits all to every research topic. So we cannot do that. No, each research topic has its own proper way on handling it or attacking it. Now, this presentation is based on the book of Groth and Wang, 2013. So we have 7 common types. First is historical research. Second is qualitative research, under which we have ethnography, phenomenology, and grounded theory. Third is correlational research. Fourth is experimental or quasi-experimental. Fifth is simulation research. Sixth is logical argumentation. And the last is case studies and combined strategies. Now, all of this I already experienced in the field of architectural research. And I will try to at least give you an idea, because if we will discuss this in detail, I think it would not we cannot accommodate everything to be discussed in the entire semester. You know, historical research can be discussed in an entire semester. What are the proper ways or steps to do historical research and so on. Makakaibang research strategy or methodology. Now again, um, I already have papers that has a sample of each of these. No? Now, before we begin formally in qualitative research, you may wonder why I began with qualitative instead of historical research. Because sometimes qualitative research is considered to be having historical research as a part only. So what happens is that just because historical research entails documents, not numeric data, they sometimes place it under qualitative research. Now, when we say qualitative research, the normal notion would be it is all about words and meanings. But again, it is just one definition of qualitative research. Just because historical research is words and meaning only, it doesn't mean that it really falls under qualitative. Now, I would like to clarify that historical research is different from qualitative research. And I will reserve another topic for historical research. No? But again, I can show you a sample of my work for historical research. Now, this is a mouthful, slide. We have about seven different um, attacks as well as definition for qualitative research. Remember, again, it is difficult to discuss in detail every bullet, no. But I would like to point out at least four different definitions. First would be the multi-method, interpretive, and naturalistic approach. That is qualitative research. Now, I will discuss I will reserve another slide for multi-method, interpretive, and naturalistic approach. Second would be, it emphasizes on in-depth engagement with site-specific settings. Now, we always say that qualitative research is words and meanings, but again, it involves the person who analyzes the information to be in depth or to be engaged with the research problem itself. So dapat nasa loob siya ng nasa loob siya ng research process mismo. Not unlike experimental, hindi kagaya ng experimental approach that the person interprets data but he is not really engaged with the subject. For example, sige nga, i-research mo nga ang COVID-19 na pupunta, magiging magiging bacteria ka rin. So there is this different approach in qualitative and quantitative or experimental approach. The third would be, it focuses on making sense of architectural phenomena in terms of meanings people attribute to them. Now, this happens when we try to understand a specific event or series of event that people is attributing something on. Now, what I am trying to say is, in the field of anthropology, we have this method, ethnography, that would like to understand the meanings of people attributing to them. For example, if you would like to study the significance of santo, the santo of for example, of Kamalanyugan, what does the santo of Saint Hyacinth of Poland is being attributed by the people. So ano ang importance ng santo na yun sa mga tao? So that is an example of an architectural phenomena and meanings that people may attribute to them. Even this San Jacinto building, if you would like to interview people how they experience the San Jacinto building, your approach should be qualitative, to understand an architectural phenomena in which the people attribute to the space or to the spirit of the place. No? But sometimes these are being neglected, the architectural phenomena. No? What I'm trying to say is that oo, alam natin na maraming multo sa si building, pero meron na bang nag-study about it? Is it properly documented? So it falls under urban legend, but again, how does people connect with the building? No? That is qualitative approach. The fourth would be the values, the researcher's interpretation of collected data. Now I will reserve another slide for this, but if you want to understand what we are trying to say with interpretation of the researcher, it involves subjectivity. Intindihan niyo bang salitang subjectivity? Okay lang ba? Okay lang ba ang pagle-lecture ko? Parang naantok kayo. Ayan na naman, mag-i-edit na naman ako ng audio. Subjectivity of the researcher. Narinig nyo na ba ang salitang subjective? Narinig nyo na ang salitang objective? Ano ang objective? Ano? Sige na, James. Hindi bias. Objective. So kung ang teacher nyo, magche-check ng plate, sabihin niya pangit, without any reason, is that objective? What is that? Subjective. You can say subjective. Why? What is the difference between subjective and objective? Ah? Ano, Alaysa? Sarili mong opinion. That is true in a sense. No? Sarili mong opinion. Not only that, subjectivity involves the emotion of the person. It involves the emotion. More on emotional siya. If you see how people rant in Facebook, that is subjective. That is a subjective viewpoint. Ano yan? O gaya niyan, pangit yan. Ganun, sabihin ko lang, pangit yung logo, pangit yung t-shirt ng St. Louis. Ay, ng CI. Sinabi ko lang yun without any proper rubrics, any proper standard that is being followed. So that is subjectivity. Now, that is one of the meanings of the interpretation of the researcher. Now, that is another thing that could be discussed, no? And another point to be taken here is, in the researcher's interpretation, everything should be transparent. Every information should be transparent in order for us to validate and to trust the judgment of the person. Naka-experience na kayo ng ganun? Have you na-try nyo ng makipag-mediate ng away? Mediate. Makipag-mediate ka na. How do you approach a mediation, being a mediator of a conflict? Knowing each side. And knowing also your side. Isn't it? The mediator's side. Naiintindihan niyo ako? Because in mediating conflicts, in order for the mediator to judge which is true, because we have two versions of truth, but sometimes the other truth is constructed, ergo falsehood, then we can say that the person or the mediator should have no preconditioned biases between the two. So for example, ito na nga yung mali, kaibigan niya pa, yung mediator. Ano mangyayari? What would happen to the mediation? It would be subjective. It can be prone to subjective judgment, not objective. Naintindihan niyo ako? So kung sasabihin niyo pangit ang isang bagay, pangit yan kasi. No? That is ugly because. Kasi kung objective, ay kung subjective, pangit lang yan. No? So, yun ang i-change nyo. No? Yun ang palitan nyo sa pag-a-assess ninyo ng data. No? This is ugly because. Yun ang objective. But subjective is, base ka sa emotion. The fifth here is, it often involves an inductive process of exploring complex situations and environments. Again, inductive yung process natin. So, more on objectivity tayo sana dito in qualitative approach. And the sixth would be, it aims to describe and explain socio-physical phenomena within architectural practice and design. Now, class, qualitative architectural research can also involve a person studying a practice of students, no? A collective practice of students, or a collective practice of the faculty, no? Mga faculty ba mahilig mangbagsak, no? Mga faculty ba ah, ano ba? Ano pa ang pwedeng aralin sa mga faculty natin? Mahirap kasi nga ano, ka-record eh. Ano ba ang pwedeng i-research sa mga faculty? As to their educational background, what is their qualifications? So those things, and what is its effect to the educational practice, no? So ano ang kung ito yung qualification ng faculties mo, how do they perform in the academia? No, so those things can be studied even in students. How do students mas maganda ba ang performance ng students if the drafting tables are inclined versus flat? So those things you can study those. No, that is phenomena. Phenomenology lahat 'yan. No? So that is qualitative research. The seventh, but this is not the final, no? It considers both historical perspectives and contemporary environments. Now, what we are talking about here is evolution of events, no? Evolutions of forms, maybe, in qualitative research. Now, to give you an idea, have you tried to research in planning 1? Planning 1, planning 2, planning 3, the morphology of Tuguegarao in its settlement, the settlement pattern of Tuguegarao. Matry nyo yun? Hindi. How unfortunate, no? But again, you can study those. The phenomena, the historical perspectives, ano yung ibabangga nyo na document, why did this happen? Now, for example, dito tayo sa dulo ha. For example, if you want to study the urban or human settlements of Tuguegarao, what do you need? What documents do you need? So we have maps. Of course, we have maps. We have land use maps. Na, yun yung gagamitin natin. And we will try to find how did settlements pattern evolve in Tuguegarao. Ito ba, unti-unti bang naging commercial? Anong nangyari sa Balsain? Ganun. Bakit naging commercial district ang Balsain din? Bakit yumaman ang Tanza? Bakit lumaki ang Carig? Bakit ang daming subdivisions sa Carig? So those things can be studied. Actually, in a master's or doctorate dissertations, that could be studied. And I'm planning to do so. But again, those things, if you want to study those, at least a portion of it, you use documents, no, to jive with it. So hindi lang plano ang hanapin nyo, pati dokumento. What were the policies that were included during those years that led to this evolution? So that is how we do architectural research. Hindi lang basta-basta pagbabasayan ng plano, hindi lang basta-basta pagtitingin ng, ito color red, commercial, color red nung 1990s, color red pa rin sa 20s, 2020, ganun. It's not like that always. You need documents to prove your point. Clear? Oh, yes ka ba? May tanong? May tanong tayo? Wala. I hope okay lang to I hope nagkakaintindihan tayo Hope nagkakaintindihan tayo. Now, I would like to emphasize the multi-method and interpretive and naturalistic characteristic of qualitative approach or qualitative research method. Um, First, if we are saying that quali is multi-method, we use a variety of data collection methods. Now, paano mangyayari yun? No, what happens when you say multi-method? It's not always one strategy, but more than two or three strategies. So we have interviews, we have surveys, we have ocular inspections, archival documents checking, literature review. Those are multi-method um, approach in quali. The second is interpretive. If we wish to study qualitative research or to execute qualitative research, we need to emphasize or we need to know the nature of interpretive research itself or interpretive approach itself. So ano yung nature talaga ng interpretive? It is subjective. Ah? It is subjective sometimes or most of the time. Now, when we say subjective, kahit ba subjective yung approach na yan, there are proper ways to thematize, to code subjective data. Paano ba nagiging subjective ang information ninyo? How can we say that could be subjective? Walang ebidensya. Ano? Ganon? Ano pa? Ito direct mo doon. Okay, yun na point Interesting. Ano pa? Actually, interpretive yung master's thesis ko eh. But again, ang mahirap doon is to validate the information. No? Although subjective siya in nature, kasi nga, itawit yung master's thesis, anong mangyayari? Yung advantages, maintindihan ko yung language, maintindihan ko yung process. But how about the subjective nature of it? What is the process? So meron tayong tinatawag na coding, thematic analysis, and validation na mangyayari. No? So interpretive class, interpretive, the nature of it is subjective, but again, there are proper ways to do it. So we have coding, we have thematic analysis, and we should validate the information. Also, it may be subjective in its entirety if the interviewees themselves are subjective. No? Paano nangyayari yun? Paano na nangyayari na yung interviewee mo subjective din? That could happen if the ones that you also included in your interviews are political enemies. No? Paano mo i-interpret yun? Magkaaway yung dalawang party. Paano mo i-interpret yun? How do you interpret the truth between it? So, ang quali class, especially in the part of journalists, that interpretive process is helpful. They should code, they should thematize, they should validate every information that were given to them. Di ba, Stephen? Ang hirap, no? Ang hirap maging objective sa ganitong cases. Especially if both parties are subjective. Maraming bias in both parties. So, kailan ka nakakita ng taong walang bias? Ako kung kausapin niyo, meron pa rin akong bias. Because sometimes that is what I believe. And again, when students ask me, I always say to them, that is my interpretation. That is my opinion. No? I always say that. That is my opinion. So kayo kung maniniwala kayo sa akin. No? Kayo kung maniniwala kayo dito sa lecture na to. No? Because mahirap magbasa ng isang chapter, libro, no? Plus, kayo kung maniniwala kayo dyan. That is interpretive. The third would be naturalistic. Now, sometimes this is quite nuanced or confusing. But again, the simple definition would be: we try to study, we try to understand the thing in their natural setting. So for example, you need to study students or elementary students. Ano yung titignan nyo? Paano nyo titignan yung yung behavior nila sa playground? How do they behave in a playground? No? Yan yung natural setting nila. Hindi yung pupunta ka sa isang laboratory, tignan mo sila maglaro doon sa loob. No, it's not always like that. Huh? Naturalistic approach. What are the characteristics of a naturalistic approach? How do we say that is naturalistic? Now we have six. Now we have six key characteristics. We have contextual understanding, interpretive focus. We need to do observation and interaction, inductive reasoning, and rich data collection, as well as emphasis on realism. Now, when we say contextual understanding, class, we should not detach ourselves with the phenomena. Dapat most of the time in qualitative research, as a naturalistic approach, you interact in the phenomena para ma-experience mo, no? Dito na nangyayari yung researcher as the observer as well as the instrument, no? Yes, even documentaries. No, parang mga docu, no? Nandoon sila sa loob, no? Nasa loob ng event, nasa loob sila ng phenomena. Paano mangyayari to, class? In contextual understanding, for example, you want to experience how people in the Islam areas or informal settlers areas live. Paano nabubuhay ang mga, sige, quote and unquote, squatter. Quote and unquote, squatter. Paano sila nabubuhay doon? So, if you want to really understand them, you immerse yourself. Pasok ka sa loob. No? Pasok ka sa loob. If you want a thesis, no? Gusto nyo master's thesis or kung gusto nyo magma-masters, no? Gusto nyo i-experience ang buhay na nasa red light district. Yan sa Makapagal. Lahat isa-isahin mo. That could happen. No? That could happen. So, ano yun? Phenomena yun eh. You need to contextualize. Pumasok ka sa loob. You experience, pero never found. But there are other dissertations. You know, there are other dissertations that are being posted online, social media. Dissertations sila more on pornography, ganun. May mga ganun na dissertations. Ang weird. But naturalistic approach, when a person is immersed on the event, immersed on the setting, you call that contextual understanding. Ah? So minsan, makikitulog ka pa sa respondent mo. Makikitulog ka pa. When I did my master's thesis diyan sa Sulanan, natulog pa ako dun sa bahay ng respondent. Kasi hindi, nakiusap ko na, Angkal, makikatulog ka. Ganun. Tapos, yung kwentuhan kasi namin ritual eh. Kasi yung bahay is pagmamayari ng isang shaman. Isang shaman, isang anitero. Alam niyo yun, yung term na yun? Animist. Animist. Yeah, the house is owned by an animist. Tiwala na lang ako Bahala na kung matamay ako dito. No? Hindi albularyo. Nasa range sila ng albularyo. But a shaman is the bridge between the physical world and the spiritual world according to animistic traditions. Sa Itawit meron. Magkikitulog ka pa? No? Hindi. Ano? No. Oo. Sa Africa, maraming ganun. Mga voodoo areas, ganun. Kung gusto mo talagang kung gusto niyo talagang maintindihan ang kultura ng isang community, you immerse yourself inside of it. That is contextual understanding. Why are we emphasizing on this part? The importance of this. Alam nyo ang laging tanong ng panelists, pumunta ka ba sa site mo? Yun ang tanong. Pumunta ka ba? Itong mga hindi naman marunong magsinungaling ni estudyante, mga inosenteng estudyante, hindi ma'am. Ay ko, ako yung nagsinungaling ako. Kung ako sa inyo, magsinungaling ako. Pumunta ako dun, ma'am. Pero sa isip ko, online ako pumunta. Google Art. Sorry ma'am, nasira yung I am not saying that this is academic dishonesty, but you try to go around the question, no? Actually, when I did my defense, hinahanap sa akin yung original manuscript ko, meron sa laptop. Hanapin ko lang, ma'am. Hanggang nakalimutan nila during the defense. So, those things, hanapin ko muna. Tuloy-tuloy ko yung defense ko. Nakalimutan nila. No? Diba, ano yung point nila na kukunin yung all the manuscript ko? Diba? So, you go around things. No? But again, contextualize. Laging tanong yan, ha? Laging tanong. Pupunta ka ba sa site mo? Yes or no? Yes, ma'am. Pero sa isip mo, sa Google Earth ka pupunta. So, but again, technically, that is not lying, no? But, of course, morally speaking, you are, may nangyayaring, kababalaghan na, So, that is contextual understanding. Second would be interpretive focus. Quali kasi to eh. Remember class, qualitative, interpretive yung focus nyo. This is what I call as the designer's bias, especially when you do the design process. The designer's bias. Kasi, kailan nyo ba ako naging teacher sa design? Ha? Ikaw, ay hindi pa? Sa klase na to, 30 plus na estudyante. Bibigyan ko ng design problem. Walang magkakatulad na design solution. Even if the form is similar, the approach, the solution is different. That is interpretive. Lalo pagka application na ng design. So that is interpretive or subjective in nature talagang quali. So, ito yung tinatawag ko sa defense na designer's bias. Di pa ako nakakabasa ng ganun kasi na term na designer's bias. But that is a bias. Because that is your solution. Your creative solution. But when we try to apply this in the qualitative research itself, and it involves your individual judgment. Individual judgment talaga yan. So third is observation and interaction. You would like to study the experiences of students during Valentine's Day. Talaga. Very timely. Observe ka, interact ka. Diyan mo ng flower, chocolate, Uso pa ba yun? Yung mga yun. So, gagawa ka ng framework mo to prove a certain hypothesis. So, those things, ang daming pwedeng aralin, no? Daming branch of knowledge. Again, inductive reasoning, alam nyo naman na yan siguro, but I would like to emphasize on it that inductive reasoning is an objective process. So, papasok na dyan ang objective process na the things that should appear eventually in your theory, especially when you do your grounded theory approach, is inductive reasoning. So, lalabas sana organically. No? Lalabas siya natural na lalabas siya. Ito talaga yung nangyayari. No? Unlike being subjective in nature, that you dictate the result. Yes po. Inductive. So it should get out of the data as a theory naturally. Lalabas siya organically. Hindi mo siya dinictate. No, you use objectivity in the part of the interpretation of the data. You may use softwares here. No? Try natin gawa mamaya ng thematic analysis. Sa 5 and 6, you may understand this as it is, rich data collection. If we say rich data collection, sobrang daming data. No? Sobrang daming information. All you have to do is to organize it, to thematize it, to code it. Tuturo ko naman sa inyo kung paano mag-thematize. And emphasis on realism class, the thing that you're investigating is real, it is happening, it is tangible, and it is experience. Paano mo ba makukuha ang experience ng isang tao? So in a 100 group of people, you may try to understand their view by interviewing them individually. So lalabas. No, lalabas yung phenomena. So for example, when I read my own evaluation, students evaluation, hindi ko naman sinasabi na malapit na evaluation kasi hindi ko naman alam schedule niyan. But when I see the evaluation, ganito pala ako in the view of students. No? Masama pala akong tao. Kalahati pa lang tayo. Slide 6 pa lang. Sorry mabagal ako mag-explain. Mahirap kasi yung basa-basahin lang yung ano. Dapat sa inyo kasi may example. Na? Huh? Bakit naman? Di ba ganun naman talaga dapat? This is the three big quote and unquote big branches of qualitative research. We have ethnography. Talaga. Medyo malaman na tong pag-uusapan natin ha. Phenomenology and grounded theory. So what do you mean by this? Matagal tong lecture na to ha. So ethnography is most of the time interpretive and naturalistic. Nabanggit ko na kanina yan. Ethnography, you immerse yourself inside the culture. So, if you remember, siguro if you study or if you watch History Channel or Nat Geo or Discovery Channel, bakit kaya na interesado ang mga Amerikano na mag-aral ng mga Asian countries, African countries, no, in their architecture, in their beliefs, ganun. Bakit kaya? So, nauso ang ethnography in the field of anthropology. No? Ethnography ang tawag dun. The second would be, medyo malaliman na to. It involves first holistic exploration of a setting, context-rich detail, reliance on unstructured data, focus on a single case or a number of cases, data analysis that emphasizes the interpretation of the meanings and functions of human action. Sino dito ang ibang religion? Aside from Catholic. James, anong religion mo? Latter-day Saint. Sino pa? James lang ang Mormon dito. Mormon ba yun? Pero, hindi kasi, Mormon ba ang tawag doon? Formal? Official? Hindi, no? You see that? Kung hindi mo tinanong si James, hindi mo alam kung ano yun. No? So, if you want to study James, about Mormonism, na? May ganon? May ganon pala. Mormonism. You can study James. That is ethnography. Bakit ka tumatawa? Totoo naman eh. Di ba, James? You have our consent. I have your consent. Ano? Ay, ganon? Bako yan na. Ganon? You see that? So, pero holistic dapat. Ethnography should be holistic. Pero itong magiging conflict ang mangyayari Paano kung ginamit yung data in a wrong way? Di ba? Di ba, James? Nakita mo na lahat-lahat. Nakita mo na mga plano ng mga building nila. Ganun. Ha? Ay, paano kung, halimbawa ako, for example, ako nag-research ng Mormon, mga Mormon. Kasi may friend ako na Mormon din. Nagkaklase ako. Pasok ako sa building nyo. Architect ako Kaya kong interpret yung buong floor plan nyo Di ba? Picturean ko lang yung fire exit nyo. Di ba? Fire exit plan. Picturean ko ito na yung floor plan nila, James. The dangerous thing about this is if you will use the data in a wrong way. How in a wrong way? Terrorism. Yan, mga yan. Exploitation of resources. Yan, mga yan. Naintindihan niyo ako? That is the wrong way, unethical way in using the data. No? Context-rich detail. Alamin nyo lahat eh. Alamin nyo lahat. For example, do we want these things to happen to our fellow people? That, for example, inalam mo na lahat-lahat, buong kaluluwa niya, binigay niya na sa'yo. Ay, sorry. Wrong choice of words. Buong pagkatao, hindi pagkatao. Buong information niya, personal data niya, binigay niya na sa'yo. Rich na yung data, unstructured yung data, binigay niya na sa'yo. No? Nakuha mo yung consent niya. That is ethnography. But if you will use it in the wrong way, for example, in the Catholic Church, maraming treasures ang Catholic Church. Nalaman mo lahat yun. And you gave that data to people that have an interest on it. Ano mangyayari? So, but again, ito kasi mali ko eh. Itong mali ko eh. Ito yung disadvantage niya pala to. No? But ang advantages niya, you know the advantage of this class? The advantage of ethnography is that you understand the culture and you will learn to respect them. You will learn to respect them. For example, syempre, kwento ko naman sa inyo yung meeting ako sa ambassador to the European Union. No? Mas nakakatuwa makipag-interact pagka alam nyo yung kultura ng bawat isa. You know each other's culture. And you know how to respect them. So kung magjo-joke siya, syempre, kitawa ka naman. No? Kitawa ka naman. So, those things. No? These are used, ethnography can be used by diplomats, no, by people, by ambassadors, the people who try to have a good relation with our country or to have a good relation with a community. Na, kaya most of the time, when you want to go to an area that is known to be hostile to outsiders, you ask an ambassador of them. Dapat alam nung tao na yun, kayo, na outsider, at kayo, kaya nyo makipag-communicate sa kanya. So that is the wider view of ethnography. No, you learn how to respect each other. I hope naiintindihan nyo ako, ha? I hope naiintindihan nyo ako. So, yun nga. Careful lang kayo, ha? Careful. Very careful lang kayo. But you need ethnography lagi. You need ethnography. Because ethnography will entail interviews and holistic relationship with a community, with the city hall, with the municipality. No, you need that. O, paano mo gawin ang ethnography? Ito ang step-by-step process niya. Nag-slide na ako. Ala na. First, you immerse in the natural setting. Na-explain na to. Engage in participant or observation. So, pasok ka muna. No? Pasok ka. But before you enter, you ask their permission, you ask their consent. Second is engage with them. So, dahil alam nilang nagre-research ka, kahit wala kang notebook, ganun. Sabihin mo na, i-on ko tong audio recording. Ganun. Third is collect the unstructured data. The information that was taken from them that is not yet processed. No? You will be the one that will process that. And a good ethnographic survey is focusing on one topic only. focusing on one topic only. If you want to study vernacular architecture, kung gusto nyo master's degree, if you want to study, specific lang, ito yung ritual ng Northern Luzon. Ngayon, puro ritual lang ng buildings. So, isang case or number of cases. Fifth would be emphasize interpretation of human action. Now, ethnography class, again, it is pioneered by anthropologists. Paano napunta sa architecture to? Because anthropology or anthropology of architecture or architectural anthropology is another branch of architecture, the study of architecture. Hindi ito para sa mga indigenous peoples lang. Again, this is not for indigenous peoples only, ethnography. I can use this method to you. Pwede kong gamitin niyo ito sa inyo. Tapos kunin ko yung data. Papalit ko yung data. Ganito pala mag-behave itong mga to. So, ano yung proper way to address these things? Laging late mag-submit. Ano yung pwedeng gawin? Ano yung mga interventions? So, that is the proper way on using ethnography. The bad thing is that you use ethnography to destroy the student, to destroy the educational system. That is wrong. Ethically wrong. But again, ethnography is a powerful tool in qualitative research. I hope you understand me, ha? Sorry. Kung Carabao, English na ako. Sorry. Yun nga. Sino naman ako? Second is phenomenology. Now, phenomenology is an interpretive also. And it involves seeking to understand the complex world of lived experience from the punto de vista of those who live it, focusing on the essential meaning of individual subjective experience. Phenomenology class ang tawag dyan. If you want to study the point of view, the punto de vista, the lived experience of a community, phenomenology is the right track or the right method for you to use. Kanina is human action. Human action, behaviors. This thing, ito naman, viewpoint. Viewpoint. What do they feel? What do they feel? That is phenomenology. It's different from human action. It's different. And the result of the action, different. If you want to study architecture, building practices, punta kayo sa ethnography. Pero kung punta kayo sa viewpoint of the people that builds a church, punta kayo sa phenomenology. Phenomenology. So what are the steps? First is to identify the phenomenon. Now, if you observe a certain interesting phenomenon, you take note of it. Second is engage in first-person inquiry. First person. Paano bang first person? First person. Paano ang first person? Pagkaisulat. I. You. You rin, Yung pag-we. Ano bang second person? Hindi ko kasi alam yun. Magit kayo lang. It doesn't harm me if I ask you because hindi ko kabisado mamaya. Third is use bracketing to set aside preconceptions. Now, This would happen if you already have the transcripts as well as in the interview, the survey, the interview. Kung meron na, ibo-bracket mo, tanggalin, di naman sa tatanggalin mo, you set aside some things, no? But dito na papasok yung unang process ng coding, no? Coding analysis. Fourth is analyze data for essential meaning. Papasok dito yung thematic analysis. You organize the information based on themes. Fifth is to interpret the findings. Interpret mo na. Ano kaya tong gustong mangyari nito? And six is validate. After you did the interpretation, you validate. You ask the people if this is correct. For example, kay James, bawal ba talaga sa'yo ang coke? Diba? Ba, James? Kala ko ba bawal? Ay, akala ko pag black. Lahat ng black bawal. Pero kape pwede sa'yo. Kape na white. Akala ko lahat ng black. Kape na black. Caffeine daw. Caffeine, no? Oo.
Pero alam niyo sir, based sa mga simple na sobrang
oh, actually, may magandang study about yan sa caffeine, effect ng caffeine sa creatures. Tinuro kanila ng spider ng caffeine. Ang gulo-gulo ng web na ginawa niya. Nakita niyo na yun? Pagka yung tinurukan ng cocaine ba yun, marijuana, ayos naman ang web niya. Totoo. Because caffeine, in the first place, it is somewhat psychedelic, di ba? Pero, inactivate niya kasi yung yung mind mo eh. No? But then again, yun, buti na lang tinanong ko kay James, pwede pala sa yung cock. No? So yun, example yun ng validation of findings. No? James, wag kang sa akin na, ma-offend sa akin na. Chinese New Year. Galing nga eh, parang ubo ng dragon. Ubo ng Year of the Dragon. The Dragon Cast. Okay, ano ba yan? Ito na tayo kaya tayo nag-overtime eh. Ito tayo sa grounded theory. This is a difficult process without preset opinions. No? Actually, when I did my master's, ito kasi method ko, talagang pinilit ko na walang preset opinion. Kasi talagang dumbbell ako sa Itawid architecture. I don't know the real thing that is happening in Itawid architecture when I did grounded theory. That's why, buti na lang, ganun, wala akong ganong alam. No? And I realized many things. The aim is, kako nga sa inyo, pabaligtad ang grounded theory. No? Pabaligtad. Data first, after that, you try to formulate a theory that proves it. Pabaligtad. No? So if you want to review that, meron tayong ibang lecture on that. Ano nyo na yun, no? Natatandaan nyo yun, no? Sa research design. So this is the step-by-step process in conducting a grounded theory. First is, of course, begin with an open mind. No? But open-minded ka dyan. Financial advice, open-minded ka pa. Second would be, collect and analyze data simultaneously. Simultaneously. Ibig sabihin, pagkakuha mo ng information, i-group mo na kaagad. Group mo na kaagad. Na-try nyo nang mag-organize ng ano, Coke and can nyo. Yan, Coke and can. Na-try nyo nang mag-organize yan. Ito, red, yan, red. Orange, green. Yan, orange, green. Red, orange, green. Ganon. Ganon mag-interpret ng data sa grounded theory. Pagkatanggap mo ng information, organize mo na kaagad. Ito, paano dito? So, yan. Third is code the data. Yeah. You code the data. You try to categorize the data. You code it. For example, in a survey, kunin mo lahat ng mga keywords na importante. Wala naman keywords ang off, tsaka da. Fourth is compare the information, compare the data. Fifth is develop a theory. So, pabaligtad, develop a theory after the data that you collected. Na-collect mo na eh. Tapos for example, sa Coke and Can, na-organize mo na. 5 lang yung nag-submit ng red na Coke and Can. 10 yung sa orange. 25 sa green. Ano ang theory mo dun? Mas marami may gusto sa Sprite. No? So those things, that is a theory that could be developed. So if you want to confirm it, na mas marami may gusto sa green, sa Sprite, you may test the theory as well as refine the theory. Paulit-ulit yan. No? Pabaliktad. So, by the moment you receive the information, you collect, you organize them. Huh? So, yan. Hanggang dyan lang tayo muna.